folks, it's me, Kelly, with Kelly Tinnen and Associates. So we've talked a lot about the future of work this past month, about the workforce disconnect and some up and coming things that are emerging in the workplace that might even shift our working habits even more than I would say that benchmark of the pandemic has done. And so what does that look like? So an interesting statistic that I found a while back was 70% of employees in the United States, the UK, and Australia don't feel that they have the skills to safely use AI in the workplace. And so that leads me to a discussion about upskilling and reskilling. Upskilling is a term used that really just means we're going to teach someone additional skills, where reskilling is we're going to completely teach you a new skill. As I mentioned when I was talking about the future of work last week, I think that AI is going to change the work landscape where we're going to be working alongside of this type of technology. And so what does that mean for teams? Professional development and skilling people into different roles is going to be really prevalent. One thing I think that employers and organizations need to look at is where are our gaps, our skill gaps, and have we assessed those gaps for our team in terms of what we have versus what we need? Like, hey, we recognize now that we don't have a lot of training or development in this particular area, and this is something that we're going to need. I was having a conversation today with some individuals about how soft skill training, at least in my opinion, is going to become more prevalent because we're going to have other technologies that are going to be able to do some of the mundane, repetitive tasks. So it's going to be more important for people to have those soft skills to be able to work with other people. So I think it's really important to look at that and assess, okay, what do we have versus what do we actually need, and how do we need to skill up our workforce in order to remain a competitive organization as well. Promoting that culture of continuous learning, I think, is really important to keep up with the changing landscape in terms of the workforce, what consumers want versus what internal customers want, your employees. Not being afraid to embrace change. And I know that's so cliche because we all say, oh, don't fear change. Change is the inevitable. But not finding ways that you can embrace change and bring your team up with you. You have to remember that in some respects, your team's going to model your behavior. And so if you're not open to continuous learning and continuous change and embracing that change, your team's not going to be either, and they're going to be fearful. And so what are some ways that as an employer we can embrace change and we can bring our team with us, but we can help them feel safe and supported as those changes are occurring also. And have we looked at tasks where we can apply new skills? Have we looked at the skills that our current team has? Again, and this is kind of part of that whole gap analysis, but what skill sets do we have and how are they relevant to other areas? I think that that's really important as well. And instead of rewarding for performance, something to think about, and this whole thought came from Deming too, and it sticks with me, but can we look at ways to reward people for being innovative versus just rewarding for performance or for output? And so definitely some things to think about, again, in that respect, in terms of upskilling and reskilling. And an interesting statistic around that as well is something like 65% of the workforce will need to be upskilled or reskilled over the coming years. And if you're interested in a book that talks about this, there's a book called Work Without Jobs. It's available on Amazon, again, called Work Without Jobs by John Bordeaux. It's a really great book that talks about kind of how AI is changing the work landscape and how to upskill and reskill teams in order to essentially manage that culture shift that's happening all around us. So some interesting thoughts there. So with that, I want to leave you with those thoughts for today. Again, don't forget that you can follow us on social media, that you can subscribe to this YouTube channel to keep up with our content. And I'm Kelly Tinnen, and we'll see you soon.